This would be huge. Tampa Bay linebacker Devin White has requested a trade, and he's not shying away from which team he wants to be traded to, should Howie Roseman make the call. Plus, another trade already happened today involving Lions cornerback Jeff Okudah. Why is that terrific news for the Eagles' chances of landing Jalen Carter? But first, let's run it. Hey guys, hope you're having a great day in what is the crazy randomness, calm before the storm of the NFL draft. If you don't know, I'm Josh Davis and I cover the birds. So make sure to like, subscribe, turn the notifications on so you're caught up to date on all the latest Eagles news. What's happening? Devin White, the Buccaneers linebacker, has requested a trade. And if you've been living under a rock or hasn't been checking Twitter constantly like I have, let me get you caught up to date. According to ESPN's Jenna Lane, she says Buccaneers linebacker Devin White has requested a trade, where she writes, one of the sources told ESPN that White has grown increasingly frustrated with the team and is fed up. The source did not provide specifics on the root cause of White's frustration, but said he has become very unhappy in his current situation. The source went on to say that the frustrations are really stemming from contract negotiations or the lack thereof, and that Devin White isn't getting what he's asking for. But if you remember correctly, and the article points it out here, that a month ago, White posted a series of cryptic messages to his Instagram stories, including the messages 4 years went by fast and thank you, along with a pirate flag, a peace emoji sign. He then included a photograph with a sign, God isn't asking you to figure it out, he's asking you to trust that he already has. We kind of saw this playing out over the course of these past couple weeks, or at least over the last month or so. But now you start to question, okay, he's asking for a trade, so where does he want to go? I know everybody started to go crazy about it, and if you haven't been on Twitter all day, it's blown up, and the buzz has been circulating around Devin White. All About the Birds tweeted this photo, and I think it's really cool. It's awesome anytime you get this mock-up or a kind of generated what the guy would look like in your team's uniform. There may have been other teams, but I've only seen the Eagles so far because I'm following most of these, but they posted it here saying Devin White would look in midnight green or even Kelly green. That's a pretty cool picture, but what was fascinating is Devin White replied to it. And so you see what he said, green my favorite color, but 40 and 45 are my numbers. Appreciate the love. Hashtag Super Bowl, hashtag trophy, whatever you want to read into that. Devin White is very excited about coming to the Eagles, and this is nothing new because remember, he posted that whenever Greedy Williams, his former teammate at LSU, was signed by the Birds. And so you take a look at the picture there, Greedy Williams signing, he put Philly with an eagle emoji, and then you take a look down there, Devin White _40 says, let's make it happen. This was a few weeks ago or several weeks ago at this point, so the argument can be made that yes, Philly has been on Devin White's mind for quite some time now, but he's publicly letting it be known that, hey, I want to come to Philly. And why wouldn't he? Again, we've made the case all the time of if you're any player and you see the writing is on the wall, you want to come to Philly. The Eagles have a great chance to repeat as NFC champions, going to the Super Bowl. You want to compete. And Devin White has said that he wants to play for a championship. He wants to play for a championship caliber team. So yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. And plus, you take a look at his stats over the last 3 seasons, the guy's averaging 130 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 4 passes defense, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries each season. Over the last 3 years, that's what his averages are. Now, you could make the case, yes, he had a little bit of a down year, definitely not great in pass coverage. This is a guy who's a game changer. Put him with Nakobe Dean, and this defense changes completely. We'd go from saying, well, hey, we need Nakobe Dean to play great, but who's that other second linebacker to the linebacker spot is solidified. Is that what Howie Roseman's going to do? Probably not, because we all know he does not value the linebacker position. And is he going to trade? What do you have to give up? And then how much do you pay for this guy? Because we got to go back to the other argument is, why is Devin White frustrated in the first place? It's contract negotiations. So he's probably not wanting to sign for a smaller deal. At least that's the realistic thought at this point. But perhaps he's saying, well, yeah, I don't want to sign for nothing or for a very little number when I'm going to be with the Bucs. And you could see where the Bucs are headed. They're kind of a dumpster fire and not going to be in for a great season. So if you take a look at the Eagles, maybe he says, you know what, if I'm going to have to make or willing to sign for a lesser number, it's got to be with a championship team. I don't know. I would be in favor of that. Yes, if he gives you a deal, but then it just comes down to how much is he willing to do. So I just took a look at what's the kind of basics for linebackers over this free agency period and taking a look at the contract. How much are you going to have to sign him for? So you see a Tremaine Edmonds, obviously he's kind of the outlier. It's $18 million per year, signed a 4-year deal. I don't think that he's in at that level of a Tremaine Edmonds, but you take a look at some of the other names and you've got a $10 million per year, $7 million, $7 million, 6.75. So I don't know. What are you going to sign up for? If you're Howie Roseman and you didn't re-sign or really retain TJ Edwards at a $6.5 million per year or a Kazir White at a $5 million per year, do you go out and get Devin White and extend him? I mean, because if you trade, the line of thinking is you don't trade and just have him for 1 year. You're going to trade and then re-extend or extend and make something work. So how much do you sign him for? I don't know that this is a realistic possibility, but Howie says all the time, you have to be ahead of the curve and surprise everybody. And so he likes to do that. And while that would be completely against his MO, if he were to come out and do this, I would be in favor of a Devin White on this team. Pair him up with Nakobe Dean, I think you're in for very good things. Now, you take a look at the other side of the argument, and Brandon Deeg, as he pointed out on Twitter, says, unpopular opinion, hard pass on Devin White to the Eagles. He wants a new contract, is currently set to make $11.7 million in 2023, and his play is slipping. He allowed a passer rating of 120.5 in coverage last year. It's a good point. It's an interesting point that you make. Yes, he's not as proficient as he has been in past coverage, and he had a very much of a down year, but you could also make the case that the Eagles don't really have a lot of great playmakers when it comes to coverage ability at the linebacker spot. Now, yes, we could go back to the argument too of you didn't re-sign TJ Edwards and he was one of the better ones at pass coverage in terms of linebackers in the NFL. I don't know. Do you really want to sign him? I want to know what you guys think. Are you in favor of a Devin White? For me, I think at this point, if I'm not thinking about the financial areas, yes, sign me up for Devin White, but it comes back to how much would he be willing to re-sign for? And if he's about to make $11.7 million, you got to think he's targeting an $8 to $10 million a year range. At that number, no, I'm going to say absolutely not. Okay, moving on. So the Detroit Lions, they made a trade today with the Atlanta Falcons. And if you didn't catch it, it was for Jeff Okudah. So the first round pick from 3 years ago, the Detroit Lions, kind of a failed prospect, or at least they're giving up on him, it seems like, but they traded him to the Atlanta Falcons for a 5th round selection. And so you see the tweet from Phil Yates. Basically, he says that both general managers got along very well. They said this is a great deal for both sides. There's a fresh start for Okudah in Atlanta. But it's a very interesting trade, and it has bigger ramifications for the Eagles. If you're not catching or correlating the two yet, let's break it down. Brandon Deeg, as I just mentioned, had to point this out. He had a great tweet here, but he says the Lions trading away Okudah opens the door for them to take a cornerback at 6. The odds of Jalen Carter falling to 10 or trade up range for the Eagles just got better. I agree, because you just traded away Jeff Okudah, and the Lions at 10 have been mocked to possibly Jalen Carter or maybe a Christian Gonzalez, possibly a Devin Witherspoon. I think Witherspoon's where they're going to go. A guy who played at Illinois, very close to Detroit, not going to have huge adjustment in terms of obviously he's been playing at Illinois for a while. So I think that would be the pick. And a lot of mocks have him going to the Detroit Lions. So we'll have to see. But either way, I think that they will take a cornerback. And if they do, like Brennan mentions there, then Jalen Carter potentially falls back, because it's either a Jalen Carter or a Tyree Wilson. And to me, I think those are the only two defensive linemen that you possibly trade up for, or you select at 10 and don't consider a Bijan Robinson. I know I'm a huge fan of that. Maybe you trade up after that from 30 and go get it. The question is, would Jalen Carter fall to 10? Maybe not, because yes, you could also make the case of now, well, wait, the Atlanta Falcons just got Jeff Okudah. Why would they be interested in drafting another corner or a different position? Wouldn't they just go take Jalen Carter? Probably. So I think I'd be in favor of what Brennan mentions there of trading up. You would have to probably trade up at 7, but hey, at least you're not having to trade up to 4, 5, 6 to get Jalen Carter. It's only a 7 spot. And so if you look at that, most likely you're talking about what? Trading up with obviously the 10th pick, but then perhaps maybe the 2nd round from next year. I don't know if Howie's going to trade up that type of draft capital in a draft that we've already talked about. We don't have very many picks. So if he can trade away one of next year's selections, I think that's a possibility, but it does look more likely, or at least better chances, to land a guy like Jalen Carter. So I'm excited about that prospect. I do think this has some big ramifications, but what do you guys think? Is this a possibility now? Is Jalen Carter going to likely slip a little bit further? And would Howie do this? What he typically does in drafts and all of his trading around and moving around, we know that Jalen Carter has met with the Eagles. They seem to be very high on Jalen Carter, as they are with a lot of Georgia players and SEC players. But I think that with this, the reading between the lines with Drew Rosenhaus, Jalen Carter's agent, it just seems to suggest that the Eagles are a very good or potential landing spot for Jalen Carter. So we'll have to keep monitor on it, but very interesting to see how this one plays out. All right, reminder, live show tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern with Thomas Mott of the Thomas Mott Show. Be sure to check it out. We'll be breaking down, obviously, this Devin White news, as well as Jalen Hurts. There's a little bit of speculation that a contract is closer, or numbers to what that might look like will be. And we'll break down more of the draft strategy, who the Eagles should take at 10, trading up, trading back scenarios. Lots more info to come. come. But again, be sure to check that out tomorrow. I appreciate the support as always. Make sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.